everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to share with you my travel journal from my trip to Mexico City last month in March. It was a pretty quick trip that I went on with my husband, about 5 days or so, and I chose to take a traveler's notebook kraft insert. So this one is the full 64 pages. Usually when I travel, I go for the half inserts just so I know I can finish them, but I'm on the staff of a stationery magazine called Pouch, and a lot of the community submissions for the next issue that's coming out had craft paper inserts. So I felt really inspired to try this type of paper because I haven't before. For the outside, I put on some stickers I grabbed during the trip, but I didn't decorate it much further. And we start here with the Mexico City spread. I just realized that I wrote April here, but I definitely went in March, so already starting the journal off on the wrong foot, perhaps, in terms of accuracy. But what I really tried with this travel journal was to make things easier for myself, really focus on documenting, using more photographs, and not feeling so much pressure to make it a whole art project. I actually leave this page blank until the very end, which might have been why I messed up the date here. And yes, here are some photos I took during the trip. There's a lot of great color in Mexico City, so that's a bit of a recurring theme in these pages. So these were some architecture and buildings I saw that I really liked, so I wanted to start off the journal remembering that. So we traveled on a Thursday morning, I believe, and then we went straight to a taqueria for some tacos. We were definitely on a mission to eat tacos every single day, if not multiple times a day. And when I do a travel journal, it always starts off ambitiously. So I brought out my paints and colored pencils, and I was drawing from the food later in the evening. And then I like to put in receipts. A lot of this black marks have been happening as I draw on top. I think the thermal ink spreads. So it's not a cute look, but I actually don't really mind because I think it helps me release some of the preciousness that I might feel about a journal and just, treat it however, even if it's a bit ugly. Moving on, I went to Panaderia Rosette multiple times actually because they were very close to where we were staying in Roma Norte. And Panaderia Rosette, if you aren't familiar, is a very famous bakery, like an Instagram famous bakery, and perhaps responsible for a lot of the popularity or gentrification of Roma Norte, which is a neighborhood that is very popular with digital nomads.
Right.
One of their biggest dishes is the guava roll, which we had. It was pretty good. I really love guava, so I think I was pretty biased to enjoy it. But they also had a nice cardamom bun, and actually I didn't draw pictures, but their sandwiches were really good. So if you are considering going, I would recommend trying some of their savory items. And then here I wanted to keep their sugar packets. They actually had really nice branding, which I suppose is a common trait of, Instagram famous places. Moving on, another spot near our lodging in Roma Norte was Cara de Taza Cafe. And this is a really cute cafe. They had a lot of pottery that they also sold. I believe there is an adjacent gallery space where they just sell ceramics. And I bought these stickers from there, which are the same ones you see on the cover. Came in a sticker pack. And they had a really lovely patio outside, so I drew from there a little bit. And I normally have a really hard time painting while traveling, just because it takes a bit of a longer time, and I don't know, I think I've been feeling a bit rusty with painting in general, so this is just a nice way for me to play with colors and have fun with it. And then in terms of beverages, I drank kombucha because I wanted to support my gut while I was in Mexico City, something that I would definitely need help with later on. All right, this is a fun spread. So we went to a churro chain called Churreria El Moro, and I actually was able to see how they made the churros by squeezing out of the machine and frying it and then coating it with sugar. So with the craft paper, I experimented with using white or cream pencils since it is kind of that mid-tone paper. That's a nice perk I found about the Traveler's Notebook craft paper. Anyway, for this spread, I think whenever I include something like napkins, I like to have a fold out here. Just makes it a little bit more tangible and fun. And my favorite thing about this packaging is it's such a nice Art Deco style in terms of the font. The actual churros were okay. Here I wrote in a live list, which is a list making practice where you write things that make you feel alive. So, the first thing that I was really struck by visiting Mexico City were the jacarandas. That's a kind of flower in bloom that has a light purple, a little bit of blue type of color. And it's actually an imported tree, which I hadn't realized, but it's very much associated with Mexico. I really love purple in the spring, so I picked up one of the petals and put it in here, and then was listing some other things that made me feel really good that day on the first day. And then this drawing, I woke up a bit early on our second day, and my husband was still sleeping, so I came out on the balcony and drew this. And I think it's a really nice, simple capture of the street that we were on, and captures a bit of the pops of color of Mexico City. So I actually really like how this one came out. On our second day, we went to the Museo Nacional de Antropología, which is Mexico City's anthropology museum. I would highly, highly recommend anyone visiting go to this museum because it is very, very large and it is all full of just Mexico's history and culture. There's at least 10 halls and rooms to explore and an entire second floor that we didn't have time to look at all. But these were the main rooms that I really enjoyed seeing. I did some drawing outside, and actually at the museum I learned about a lot of Aztec gods. These are just a sampling of some of the gods that I learned about, but I really loved this imagery. I just love the idea of there being different gods or archetypes to represent different aspects of our life, whether it's being a patron of artists, a patron of wind or learning, one for fertility and childbirth, one for the night sky, hurricanes, sorcery. And then on the right here, there was a poem inscribed in the wall outside that I thought was really sweet. The translated version goes, "Every moon, every year, every day, every wind, walks and passes too. Also, all blood arrives at the place of its stillness." So maybe not the most poetic translation, because I did that with help from Google Translate, but I love that it encapsulates the cyclical nature of everything and how there's this life and death cycle. I recently wrote about the Ouroboros, which is a snake eating itself, so it felt in connection with that idea, that concept that I've been thinking about a lot lately. On Friday, I drew some of the foods that we ate. In terms of the actual restaurants, I would say both were on the mediocre end. But the cafe we went to had a really nice logo, so I drew that, and then I attempted to draw some food, which did not come out that great in my opinion, but we make and learn and move on. And then after our meals, we went to the castle in Chapultepec Park, which is also known as the National Museum of History. And so this is on the top of a hill. I believe we had already walked a lot that day, and there's also a higher altitude in Mexico City, so I was pretty tired by the time I reached the top, and I remember taking a little power nap, sitting down here in front of this view. The inside you can browse, and there's a lot of really pretty stained glass and European art, and really great views of the city from Chapultepec Park. I peeped into Museo de Arte Moderno, which is the modern art museum in the same park. The entrance was pretty affordable, and there was a Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera specific exhibit there. I actually did not get tickets to see Frida Kahlo's house, but I did want to make sure to see her art, so I prioritized going to the museum. And I got to see a lot of her self-portraits, and I got to discover Remedios Varo's art. She is a surrealist Mexico painter who I hadn't heard of before, but I was really struck by this painting Mimesis, where the woman sitting is almost absorbed into the chair that she's sitting on, and there's a lot of symbolism of surreality and dream world. So I really enjoyed discovering a new artist there. This spread has a lot of food packaging. I ripped this from the taco wrapper that we were eating. This spot was called Tacos Monterregios, and they had the best ribeye tacos. I think we determined that was probably our favorite taco spot of maybe the 6 or so places that we went. There's a lot of great signs, hand-painted signs in Mexico City, so I stuck this in here because this spread is a bit drink-themed. I drank kombucha again at another cafe, so I peeled off that label and stuck it in here because I think food packaging is one of the best ways to kind of get a sense of the country's design sensibility and what they commercially enjoy in art. So I wanted to put that in my journal. Moving on, the next day on Saturday, we went to Teotihuacan, which is a day trip you can take from Mexico City. It's about an hour ride outside, and here's where you can see ancient pyramids that were built in 100 to 250 CE. And it was actually the Aztecs who discovered the ruins in the 15th century. So it predates the Aztecs by at least like 1400 years or something like that. There's 2 main pyramids that you can see there. One is named after the sun and one is named after the moon. We were able to hike at least halfway up the moon pyramid and see how large this old ancient village was. Nearby, we went to a restaurant that was in a cave. This drawing is a bit embarrassing to show you. I don't know how to draw caves, so it looks like a hot mess, but you know, a travel journal is meant to experiment, so here you have it. And yeah, on the right there is water bottle packaging because we drank so much water. In general, you don't want to drink tap water in Mexico City, so I would recommend getting bottled water and collecting the labels if you so choose. We had dinner at an Argentinian spot, and then I was collecting more signs and food labels here. On the evening of Saturday, we went to a cocktail bar. My husband and I don't really drink, but we wanted to try mezcal, and so at least one time we decided to have an evening drink. And this spot, Licoreria Limantur, is a old renowned cocktail bar in Roma Norte, and they had a lot of fun designs for coasters, which we were able to take, and they had a really nicely designed menu and really delicious cocktails. Actually, I was a bit nervous because I didn't feel too good digestion wise, and alcohol usually makes that worse, but the cocktail I had was pretty low in alcohol content, and actually it was the first time I've ever seen at a bar each cocktail said exactly how many milliliters the cocktail had of liquor. So I thought that was really, really nice because I just ended up ordering a cocktail that did not have that much liquor in it. So that was great.
Great, Jeremy's.
On Sunday, we went to Coyoacán. That is mostly known for being the location where Frida Kahlo's house is, so that's the main reason people go there. Even though we didn't have tickets, I had read really good things about this neighborhood, and I'm really glad we went because we ended up discovering an international book fair that was randomly happening that weekend. We went to the market there, Mercado Coyoacán, and it was very, very lively. Tons of people, really good food vendors. We were able to eat there and walk around and explore, and that was actually probably one of my favorite areas of Mexico City. So if I go back, I might want to stay there instead. We made our way back to the main historic area. We went to go see Museo de Arte Popular, which is the folk art museum in Mexico City. And on Sundays, most of the museums are free entry. So that does mean that it can be more crowded for the popular museums. But this one seemed not as popular. It was a really, really pleasant experience, and it was actually my favorite museum of all of the ones that we went to while we were there, mostly on a personal level of really enjoying seeing folk art. The displays were all really educational and representative of the culture, which I really enjoyed. At this point on a trip, I'll just randomly stick all my ephemera towards the end, and then I come home and I'm like, okay, I have to fill this page with something. So this was a taco spot that was maybe on like the mediocre end, not necessarily one that I wanted to talk about specifically. So I made this into a favorite food spread and just wrote down some notes. And then here I peeled off the electrolyte drink that saved me after we got the stomach bug during maybe our third day. So I wrote a little bit about that. And there we go. That is the end of this journal. I do have some pages left that maybe I'll bring on a short trip in the next few months if I go on any. But yes, thank you for listening and watching this video. I hope it gave you some good recs if you plan to go to Mexico City, or some good ideas to make your travel journal light, fun, playful, easy, and pressure-free. My name is Carolyn. If you enjoyed, please like or subscribe. I also have a weekly newsletter that you can check out, and otherwise I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.